This is Jim Fetzer with James Fetzer News, and my special guest, Jerry Mazza, an independent journalist from New York who has just published a piece, U.S. and Israel Sign a Massive Arms Deal. What's up, Jerry?
Well, what's up is very strange in that Israel was being censored for its behavior in terms of continuing to develop settlements from the West Bank, supposedly by the U.S., and Netanyahu was visiting the White House to hash this out since he dissed Joe Biden, Senator Mitchell, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that the Pentagon, they're making a deal to buy $70 million airplanes. It's a $3 billion deal. And then there's another airplane called a C-130J that they're also purchasing. And they're getting, I think, half of the money, about $3 billion in loans or for free. And this is on top of the $3 billion they get annually for arms. And I don't quite understand why one awards bad behavior with multi-billion-dollar assistance and arms packages of enormous degree. It's baffling.
Jerry, I find this rather shocking, given, as you mentioned in passing, that Netanyahu had just snubbed Joe Biden massively. Not only during his visit did they announce the construction of some 1,600 new settlements, which was undermining the peace process, but he actually apparently deliberately shattered a glass-encased photograph and told Biden all he could offer him was broken glass.
This is all true. So he is seeking the support of the far right, Netanyahu is, and his acts are getting more and more bizarre because of that. There's a certain desperation, but I still, the question is, where is he really headed? Is Israel capable of a nuclear strike against us? Or they, I know they were warned by the U.S. military as well to stop undermining the U.S.'s authority because it endangers U.S. troops. So nothing really seems to be working except giving them more money and more pats on the back. I find that very strange.
Jerry, I'm very troubled by this. Isn't Israel already the recipient of the great mass of U.S. foreign aid? And isn't Israel the most massively armed state in the Middle East? And indeed, doesn't it have the fifth most powerful military force in the world?
Yes, it does. It has 200 to 300 nuclear warheads that were produced at their nuclear reactor and plant at Dimona in the Negev desert. And, I mean, they were noted to say, one of their presidents at one time, "We shall bury you." And I don't know if this is becoming literal. Also, linked into the article is a piece by Dr. Alan Sabrosky, who's the former director of studies at the U.S. Army War College, about his military knowledge of Israel's involvement in, or at least the Mossad's involvement in 9/11. So they seem to really be getting into our lives in a very negative way.
Jerry, I've heard of the tail wagging the dog before, where Israel's a tail and the United States is the dog. Ariel Sharon even boasted that we own America and the Americans own it. I'm very grateful to you to mention the 5 dancing Israelis, the possible role of the Mossad in the events of 9/11, and even the thought some have that Israel did it.
Right. Well, that was an incredible incident where in New Jersey, a woman reported seeing supposedly Arab-looking young men and one was dancing on top of the car as the World Trade Towers were burning down and going down in the background, and he was flicking his Bic, a cigarette lighter, and he was being videotaped by his pals. So she called the cops. The cops busted them and found traces of dynamite in the truck,
Yes.
and maps of the city and the tunnels. They found 2 more of those vans in the city. These guys went to jail. The FBI arrested them for about 80 days, and then they were released and extradited to Israel, and they went back to Israel and said that they were there to document the event. Document what event?
It's shocking. It's shocking, Jerry, but you're absolutely right. There were some 5 of them who were observed on a rooftop across the river, taping the destruction of the World Trade Center and celebrating. They appear to have been dressed in Arab garb. When the police officer approached the white van, the driver told him, we are not your problem. They, the Palestinians, are your problem. As you observed, they were incarcerated for some 71 days until an assistant to then Attorney General John Ashcroft directed their release. They returned to Israel, and 3 of them, as you mentioned, went on television, explained they were there to record the destruction of the World Trade Center. They obviously could not have done that had they not known in advance it was going to be destroyed, and the man who directed their release would turn out to be our head of Homeland Security, Michael Chertoff. Shocking stuff.
Right. The circle is complete. It is, and I don't know. This also, I may say to friends or even some members of my family who happen to be of the Jewish faith, that this is not anti-Semitism on my part. This is telling the truth about a political ideology in government, Zionism, which seems to be out of control. I would make the same kind of statements about the neocons, and unfortunately, I am troubled by the behavior of Obama escalating the Afghanistan war into Pakistan and places beyond. So this is just a political reality. This is not an anti-Semitism singling out people for their religious beliefs or anything of that nature.
Jerry, you're absolutely right. I authored a piece entitled, Is 9/11 Research Anti-Semitic?, which is accessible on Google. And I make the point that criticizing the state of Israel or the government of Israel or the policies of the government of Israel is not anti-Semitism, but is a legitimate political critique. Anti-Semitism involves discounting or disregarding the worth of human beings because of their religious or ethnic orientation. What we're talking about is not that.
Right. Absolutely not. I mean, I have a 92-year-old reader, a woman who lives in Canada, who, with her husband, in the beginning of Israel, in the late 40s and early 50s, he was a scientist, and he went there to help do whatever he was going to do. And he was so troubled by what he saw going on there that both he and his wife then left Israel and emigrated to the United States, and subsequently she moved to Canada. But she's one of my greatest readers, and of the Jewish faith. But she keeps an open mind, and nobody should be above the truth or the law.
One of the other absurdities, Jerry, along with the charge of anti-Semitism, is that 9/11 truthers are analogous to Holocaust deniers, but the comparison could not be more inappropriate. Holocaust deniers denied that the German government perpetrated atrocities. 9/11 truthers affirm that their government committed atrocities.
Exactly. It's more like what Hitler did with the Reichstag, burning it down. I think it was Goebbels in the end who was the culprit, but they blamed it on some semi-insane young communist who they subsequently beheaded. Beheaded people don't talk much. That's the way it went.
Just as 9/11 appears to have been used to justify constraints on civil liberty and initiate this war on terror, and as a cloak to conceal illegal wars of aggression in Iraq and Afghanistan. Jerry, I'm so proud of you for speaking up on these matters and for coming on with us. I want to thank you so very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Take care.